wonderful message from Barry J. I mean, handle life with careful caution, and at the same time, you can just try to make sure it's a simple lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, when there's life, there is hope. That is what matters most, the fact that you are alive, well and healthy. So today, marking the World Town Planning Day 2025, with the theme, with planning, we can. We will be discussing with the town planner, but not just any town planner, but a particular one of interest, a town planner with vast knowledge and experience in his field. And his name is Town Planner Toyin Hayide. He was the former president of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. He didn't end there. He was also he served as the national president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, that is the NIGP, from 2020 to 2022. And also he served as the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development in Lagos State from 2011 to 2015. That was in Lagos State, Nigeria. So we are privileged to have someone with vast knowledge in the town planning world to discuss planning starts from home with us here on the program. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Many thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, I read just a little bit from your resume and your profile because it's just quite intimidating, and if I just get into it, maybe we'll have to end splash, then come back again next week to continue with your profile. So I just had to pick, a few things.
And that's okay by me.
Okay, then.
Someone says that there's no entitlement in titles.
Oh, great.
So
I love that philosophy.
So we really should go into the specifics and leave the titles.
Oh, great. Okay, now let's just help us understand the phrase, the topic of today, planning start from home, especially practically.
Okay, let me say first that there is a theme really for 2025, and that theme is with planning, we can. And then there's a topic, which is a rider, that's planning starts from home. First is to make us realize that the home is the smallest unit of urban planning, and that whatever we are looking at, we have to take cognizance that there's a kind of grassroots nature of planning. So when you are considering planning, you must bring it down to the lowest level so that everyone can be carried along, no one being left behind. And also to recognize that when you say something starts from home, it also means that there are ideas that are context specific, things that can be generated from the one that is concerned himself, and not just a top-down approach to solving problems.
So when we talk about planning, especially town planning, are we talking about just buildings, structures, or is it a mindset that actually extends to how we manage our time, resources, and personal growth? Does town planning end at buildings and structures?
Okay, I love your question.
Thank you.
Because there are times I feel that the reason planning is not making a headway in our climb is probably because we lack the culture of planning. Planning looks at solving problems, asking the relevant questions of why, what. And so it's not just about buildings. Buildings are actually the downstream part of planning, the pedestrian part of planning. What planning presumes is that decisions have to be taken for the future right from now. So it's like predicting what is going to happen. This is more possible to explain with a place like Abuja that was bush before 1976. And it was only in 1976 that the federal government took a decision to relocate the federal capital from Lagos to Abuja. And so Abuja had to start from the scratch. Abuja was a wilderness. It had just a few settlements that were moved to what is now called Suleja. And if a plan of a fresh city. So if Abuja is looking good today or is looking near sustainable, it is because it was designed from fresh. And so planning is about taking a total look and forecast about how a city is meant to grow. Because a city, every human settlement, is a living organism. It will have an origin. So for Abuja, for example, we know its origin. And then it has a growth. It can decline, or it can deteriorate if we allow it. And it can also die, depending on the decisions we take from time to time. So it is within the context of that overall plan that we begin to devolve into the various aspects until we come to buildings. So we'll be talking of the infrastructure. Planning is about man and his environment. So you want to preserve the environment because of man, and yet man must work within that environment. So planning tries to meet the needs of that man within the environment. So a man needs a shelter. So we'll be talking of buildings. A man needs to work. So we'll be talking of working areas, commercial, industrial, markets. Man needs to worship. So you'll be talking of religious environments. Man needs to rest, final rest. You know, because oftentimes we think only about the living people. So where are we going to bury these people? Man needs to also recreate himself. I want us to break that word into two, re and create. Because many times we do not relate recreation with trying to regenerate ourselves, trying to rebuild new energy. So man needs to recreate. So we have stadia, we have sports grounds and things like that. And then all of these activities I mentioned need to connect themselves. And that is connected with a transportation system, so which is called the communication amongst them. And then planning ensures that all those uses, all those activities are compatible. So you don't want to put an obnoxious or a noxious industry close to a residential building, because that will be threatening the life of man that you are planning for. You don't also want to develop the total environment to the extent that you eradicate all of what is called the natural environment, because that will also be detrimental to the existence of man. So that's how wide planning is. And in all of this, planning is taking care of economy, because I said man must work.
Sure.
It's taking care of economy, it's taking care of the social environment, and it's taking care of the general relationship of man to man and man and his environment.
Okay, now you've made town planning sound like a responsibility for the government. Are we responsible as an individual, since town planning actually revolves around man, just like your explanation, just the way I understand your explanation right now. So you make it sound like, okay, it's the government that have to plan for where man worship, where man works, where man lives, and where man has his final rest. So what part does an individual, the man itself, what part can a man partake in all of this?
Okay. In our system, for example, I'll use our system to explain. You said I served in the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development. So let me say that predominantly, government does the planning, predominantly. But we all bring development.
How?
Good. Especially for Nigeria, we all contribute to development. And the reason we do that is that although government plans its estate, formal activity, we build our houses individually, informal activity.
Okay.
Because let's imagine Ogun State Housing Corporation lays out an estate. So a plot is allocated to you and a plot is allocated to me, and each of us is expected to develop our plots. If you scratch your ground, you haven't built, just scratch the ground with a digger and it makes a map, you've started development. So that's your role. So the question is, what are you developing on that land? It makes you have a role to play. You can account for solution or problems within that development. So that's how it connects all of us. That's why when government plans, it now envisages the kind of development that should take place and will be measuring your proposal and mine against the template that it's already having. So it concerns all of us.
Okay, now you've talked about the important role of the government, that of man. And now let's talk about the institute that you have led in the past, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. What role does this institute play in influencing policy and educating citizens about the importance of sustainable planning and proper planning?
Now, the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners is an umbrella body for all of those who have studied the urban planning profession.
Okay.
Call it town planning, call it urban planning, call it urban and regional planning. That's the institute that combines all of them. I use my words with a lot of caution.
Okay.
I didn't say town planners, because there's also another body called the Town Planners Registration Council that actually certifies people as town planners. But the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners brings together all of those who have studied urban and regional planning and who have been accredited to have satisfied the minimum requirements of becoming members of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners.
Minimum requirement being?
Attending an accredited school of urban and regional planning studies.
Okay.
So once you have that, you're expected to have spent 2 years working experience, and then you sit for a qualifying interview or test to be sure that you know what you're talking about. And so the institute registers you as a member. But what the institute does is that it promotes the profession of urban planning, it advances knowledge, it advocates to let people know what urban planning is. This is one of the programs to advance the knowledge of planning. The World Town Planning Day, for example, was established in 1949, and the purpose for it was to advance public and professional interest in planning, and we're still doing it. 76 years after, we're still doing that. As president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, part of that responsibility was for me to travel around Nigeria, and I was able to cover 27 states of Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
In less than 1 year, moving around.
Wow.
I started in March. I started touring Nigeria in March 2021, and I toured up till when I handed over in October.
So what would you say about each
2022.
state, the stage at which each state you visited is concerning town planning and urban development?
I wish I could open the relevant page here, but I'll have to search for it. I was able to assess every state. I met with 8 governors in all of this. I met with 2 deputy governors representing them. I met, I think, with 3 secretaries to the state government. But in real life, speaking to governors, I was able to meet 8 of them. I met about 8 vice chancellors. Because the truth is that those you think know about planning don't know about planning. The majority of Nigerians do not understand what planning is. In fact, the president of the nation, the governors of states that are supposed to understand what planning is do not understand planning.
And maybe no, hold on. That's a statement. Maybe it's because they have people, someone like you, in positions that are of importance and relative to town planning and urban planning. I mean, imagine the president or the governor worrying about every major sector.
Yeah.
It's only human at the end of the day.
I agree with you. But if one has someone like me to advise him.
Is that you pushing yourself?
No, I'm just,
Please continue.
I said if.
Okay.
I mean, I had someone who asked me to be his advisor. I mean, I was a commissioner to Babatunde Raji Fashola as commissioner. And one of the fundamental statements he has ever made is that he believes that the two most important members of his cabinet were the town planner and the economic planner.
Especially in a state like Lagos State.
And he said it was in that order because a town planner helps you to understand where to locate your things and how they relate.
Okay, now let's talk about practical things, especially things that have been happening now. Now, you were the commissioner in Lagos State.
Yes.
From 2011 to 2015, correct? So now, we've seen recent cases of demolitions, buildings, demolitions, marketplaces and all that, especially in Lagos State. So where do you think this error, this fault, what do you think is the genesis of this particular problem before we get to demolition?
Yeah.
Because definitely the person, maybe the owners, must have gone through certifications from town planners, urban institutes, or even firms like yours. So the building was erected, was there for years before the demolition. What actually is the problem?
Now, you had me say initially about the culture of planning.
Okay.
Yeah, that it doesn't look as if we have a culture that resonates with planning. And that is part of what the Institute is trying to do, educate people, advocate. You know, when you see people take soft drinks in their cars, Porsche cars, Mercedes-Benz, Ferrari, and then they are going on the highway, and then they wind down their glass and toss the bottle on the road. It shows people who have very little knowledge about planning, because if they did, they will understand that eventually that bottle may get into the drain, and that drain may get clogged just because of their own actions. In other climes, nobody will do that. Let me come back to your question, and that is about what will have warranted demolitions. It's all about lack of knowledge. Many times people want to make development which they have not made investigation about. So somebody wants to build an office complex, but he went to purchase a land that was zoned for residential. And you will be surprised the extent to which Nigerians go to invest in waste, because some actually dare the system and want to begin to construct, and they will tell you that we're sure with money we can get over. And then they meet somebody who is willing to uphold the profession, uphold the Constitution, and say, you know what, you can't get ahead with this. So that is part of the experience. We can have a few deviants, a few people who can lead people astray, but I tell you that many times you will find out that it's because people have not stuck to the principles of planning.
Now, with your experience in both the public service and the private world, the private practice, tell us about the balance actually that we need to achieve as an individual, as a profession, as a professional like you, and especially coming from the government. Tell us about the balance we need to achieve in order to have a more structured town and environment.
We need a policy maker that is willing to support, defend, and fund planning. We need technocrats, urban planners, who are ready to do their work, not minding whose ox is God. We need a public that is receptive to planning, that understands that without planning, we cannot make a headway. In fact, the way I put it is, we either plan or we perish. Because you can't survive living in confusion. At the end of the day, you will harm yourself. We had that problem during the COVID era. Do you know how many people died because the ambulance could not get into where they lived? Do you know how many fire trucks have not been able to get into buildings that were consumed in conflagration of fire just because planning was not done? So we need everyone to come to this knowledge. My goal is to turn every Nigerian into a planner.
Do you think we're...
And that means...
Do you think Nigeria is actually achieving that goal? Do you think we're getting it right?
We may not be where we want to be.
Okay.
But we are definitely not where we were some years ago. I believe with continuous advocacy, firing from all cylinders, we will get there.
So we are doing something right.
Yeah, we will get to a level that it is the public that will call you, that will say, do you know something is going on? As a matter of fact, 2 days ago in Lagos, I got a call from somebody who was still asking me whether that was Ministry of Fiscal Planning, because that was the standard I left in 2015. That when you see something, say something. And those numbers were already pasted there. So 10 years after leaving office, somebody is still calling me to lodge a complaint about planning. I want all Nigerians to be able to do that.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming on the program. Just have to wrap it up already.
It's a pleasure. We can never have sufficient time to discuss planning.
Are you? Wow, I like that, really. Thank you so much for coming. Town Planner Tony Ayinde, the former president of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. We do not want to perish. None of us wants to. And that's why we'll be taking on the 2025 Town Planning Day mantra, which is, with planning, we can. We'll be back.